Hey, this is GDibsy here with another sound software tutorial. Today I'm going to be talking about effects in FL Studio and what you can do to basically modify any kind of sample or sound from a plugin that you made. So this is the file that I have from one of my previous tutorials, the one where I talked about samples and I made a drum pattern. So right now you can see that up in here, the monitor, you can see that the wavelengths aren't actually reaching the edges, and that over here there's still some room before it gets to the top here. And that's basically because it's not mixed and it's not mastered really, and it's basically not as loud as it could be. But the danger with making stuff louder is you don't want to have any clipping or distortion, and it sounds bad, it's unprofessional. So there's a lot of effects you can do, first of all to make stuff sound better, and then also to mix better and to have better sounding layering and everything that goes with making a song. So over here is the mixer track up in the top right here, and I've already labeled and linked a few of my samples and sounds to the mixer track. But to do that, all you have to do is go over here. Oh, not the playlist. This is the playlist where you go to your actual stuff. This is the pattern one, and find whatever pattern you want, and then click on the sample that you probably dragged in from over here. And this is one of my kicks, and this is the pattern. So playing down here, just clicking that, you'll be able to hear the sample. And if you go over here, well, actually you don't need to do that. My bad. All it matters is up here is that it's linked to one of the any channel in the mixer. And if it's not linked to anything, the best way to do that is to hit Control L or go up over here and assign free mixer track. What that does is sets it to a new one. Now I don't really need to do that, but because it was already linked over here. And it looks like I already have reverb, and I don't really want reverb on the kick. I don't know why I had that, but that's one of the effects. This over here is basically where you add in all the effects. Choose how much you want them to actually affect, how much you want the effects to affect whatever is there, and or not altogether. And all of these things, like the volume slider, you can automate those, and automation clips are another thing I'm going to get into. But it's a really good way of controlling things over time. And yeah, so the first thing you want to do, click the arrow and choose what you want. I'm going to choose a limiter, and Fruity Limiter is a native effect, and it's really important when you're trying to get stuff louder without distorting it, or to mix stuff and master it and make it sound better in together with the rest of the stuff. So this is the gain and the ceiling, and this is on my kick, so you're going to notice it'll sound louder now. So that sounds better automatically, and it's not clipping or anything, and the wavelengths are getting louder, and yeah, it's already sounding better just with that. Then if you go to the master, this is the master volume. This is where everything is mixed together, and you have to make sure that the master volume is not clipping, because otherwise it's all bad. You got all this distortion. It doesn't sound good. So limiter on there is going to be important. And usually I move the saturation knob down a little bit, but the gain and ceiling, and you can play around with these, of course. But now that drum kick might even be a little too much, but you can see up in here that it's already way louder and reaching over here without turning red or yellow. I don't even know. What is this? Yeah, okay. Anyway. I don't know what I was looking at. Yeah, so the snare drum that I have here is not linked to anything yet, is it? I thought I linked it to the second one. So now it's linked to the second one, snares, and I'm going to add another limiter and maybe some reverb. And reverb's another effect I use a lot. Now for drums and stuff, you don't really need a lot of reverb. It just kind of fills out a room a little bit. If you just listen to the snare by itself, you can tell what I did. I don't want that one. That was annoying me. But yeah, if I make it even more pronounced, increasing the reverb and maybe even the decay, which is the time it goes for, you can hear that extra sound afterwards, and that's kind of the decay. You don't need it. Obviously, you don't need that really for snares and kicks as much. So I'm going to lower this a lot. But that's reverb. That's another useful one. Another really useful one is delay, and this is really good for. It's really simple, obviously. It's really good for any kind of plugin and sound. Yeah, and another one. This this is where I'll get into more of the effects. So those are just a few basic ones that I use a lot, especially for drums and for the mixer, the master stuff. But when you're getting in with other samples, for example, a string sample that comes, these are the ones that come with FL Studio, and I like them a lot. Even though they're default, they actually are really useful. So right now I'm using this one right here. And I already messed with this a little bit and assigned it to a free mixer track. Go over to this insert thing, and I messed with this a little bit to make it so it wasn't straight. It didn't play right away, and this is just a little modification. It's not like this is any crazy effect. And taking this off will disregard anything that you put inside this little envelope thing. But modifying anything will automatically bring it back. So it doesn't sound super realistic right now, and that could be because it's a little bit loud, and you can control that right here. But it needs some effects. So we're gonna go over here. I might as well do a limiter, but I'll play around with that later when if I'm mastering a song, then that's when you really want to mess with those. I'm gonna add in some reverb, of course, because there's strings and they need that to sound realistic. That's all the reverb. Then I'm gonna go to, well, there's a few different kinds of limiters and stuff like that, but I'm gonna go to Maximus. This one I like a lot. It might sound a little harsh, but this one might have sounded better on something that wasn't like built on chords like this pattern I have right here. And I'll probably modify this later, but this is just an example. And then obviously, if you want it to work less, you can lower this. So I don't really like that very much, but it's just one that you can use. And then what was I going to Oh, I was going to use a Fruity Parametric EQ too. Very important tool. I pretty much use this on almost every channel, every sample or plugin that I have, especially when you want to master at the end of your project. Now with this one, you can see exactly the frequencies at which that sample is kind of playing at, and you can see over here C1, C2, C3. As you go up the scale, what is actually being played. A low bass, a low mid, upper mid, I don't even know what that one is, and treble. And you can control these by lowering maybe the bass, because I don't really want this to be a bassy kind of thing, and maybe increasing the high end. This is really useful if you say maybe have a really bassy track and you just kind of want to separate the layers. It's really important, and this is a great way to do it. So that already sounds better. And another reason why it probably doesn't sound as great as it could is because right now I'm not even using my sound drivers. In order to record like my voice along with this, I actually have to use the primary sound driver, but I have a sound card and I usually use these ones. But regardless, still hear it. So those are strings, and that sounds a little bit better than before. But I'm probably going to play with this to increase it. Still a bit loud. What was I going to do? There we go. So as I said, automation clips, or maybe I didn't say that. Automation clips are another really useful tool that I'm going to cover in another tutorial. But to make an automation clip, you right-click on something that you want to control. So say the volume, and say create automation clip, and it goes directly over here. And basically, this means you can control the volume of your strings or whatever parameter you chose throughout the whole song. So if you select that pattern, so say I wanted it to kind of fade in a little bit, I would lower that and then make right click to make a point, and it would, oh, there we go. So that's just a really simple example of that. So there's a lot more effects that you can use and access, and I'm going to add in a citrus. And this is just going to be a bass. That's what this is going to be. So with this plugin, first of all, I'm going to link it to the mixer. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to make a new pattern for it. So I'm going to call it bass 1. and F2 will allow you to change the color of everything. I like doing that for pretty much everything, just to differentiate. So bass 1, and this is going to be, I gotta link this, so I'm going to go over here, assign free mixer track, so I can add in some effects. I'm just going to put a limiter on because I know I'm going to use that later and tweak it. Also, I know I'm going to have one of these. So now I got to actually put some notes in. What's the chord again? Okay, so I can actually copy this, Control A, Control C, and then just pick out the bottom one. Quicker way to do this. This might be too high, we'll see. Oh, maybe it's too low. Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to move that up an octave. So it already has, it sounds like it has effects on it, like a little bit of a delay, but that's actually through the plugin. And I think I'm gonna remove those. I don't really want any delay through this plugin. Oh, there's still delay. This is the delay. And I think I just tweaked with something. Just gonna remove. Okay. There we go. So now it's completely raw, nothing. Now I can really control it over here. And the first thing, I'm gonna just play it and see what the parametric EQ looks like. Equalizer, obviously, that's what it's short for. So it does have some high end, but it's mostly, you can see it's pretty strong in the low bass. So I'm gonna cut out a lot of the high end, increase the bass a tiny bit, maybe even the mid. And those wave, you can see like moving across. That's part of a phaser that's built inside this plugin for that preset. So that's just a really simple thing. I could probably add in a little bit of reverb because with none it sounds a little bit bare. And that's not enough. Increase the delay. Yeah, you play around with this stuff, and that's really how to use it. But I'm just kind of overviewing the different effects that I use a lot, and just kind of how they apply. Then there's another technique that I would normally use with a bass if I was making any kind of really electronic song, and that's called sidechaining, and it's also useful with synthesizers. And sidechaining is more advanced, but basically what you're doing is automating the volume and the peak of the volume, so it kind of sways and goes and yeah, I'm not going to explain how to do that, and I'm going to probably put a link in the description to another tutorial, not by me, by a guy named Digital Video FX. He makes a lot of different FL Studio tutorials. I recommend you check him out. Makes a lot of good stuff, and there's a great video that where I learned how to sidechain, and it's really not that hard. It's a useful technique. But yeah, I'll continue my brief overview. We're almost done here. So yeah, I just showed you basically the limiter, the parametric equalizer, and reverb and delay are some that I use the most, and they're the most simple. But there's a lot more that come with, and sound goodizers are another one that you can beef up the sound of a synthesizer a lot with that one. What should I? Well, I would put in a piano pattern, but it's really, I can just explain it from here. I mean, linking this, if you link this. Piano, and linking this to a free mixer track, you can see right now sounds like nothing. Add in reverb, add in a delay, lower the delay volume a little bit, and look at what it sounds like. Needs more reverb. You're making something that originally sounds really bare sound more realistic with effects. Too much delay. So you'll learn how to like tweak with these things. I'm still learning, obviously, and there's a ton of different plugins and a ton of different effects that you can use to modify everything. So some that I use a lot that aren't FL native are a really basic and free auto-tune plugin. It's called G-Snap. It's free. I might put a link in the description if I remember to. Edison is something that comes with FL Studio that's really useful for if you're recording vocals or anything inside FL Studio. This is where you record it. Like you would hit record, I would say blah 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 and hit done. And then you would modify this and drag your sample from here to the playlist. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to demonstrate it because I don't have anything to mess with, but that's really cool. Replace it with filters. Another good one that I use when I'm making a white noise filter in 3xOSC. That's another technique that I'm going to probably go over or link to. 3xOSC is a really good plugin, like underrated plugin, I think, that comes with FL Studio, and it sounds really bare most of the time. But if you're going to make a white noise filter and link this to a track, then I would definitely put in a filter. And a filter, then I would, the automation clips that I was talking about earlier, I would right click and control automate the low pass and the high pass probably, and then I would, or actually no, also the cutoff frequency, that's really important, and then I would probably automate the volume. So I just created a bunch of automation clips really quickly, and that's what these things are, like I explained earlier, and they're really important for basically anything that you want to control over the course of the song. So it's important to have those, and obviously they're really easy to use. And if I was making some kind of drop, I would probably just gradually increase these as it goes up. So yeah, definitely a new video will be coming out of I'm gonna make a new video about FL basics in general, and basically how to navigate yourself and do really basic things. But this is kind of part 3 in a little bit of a series, I guess. The first one talked about samples, the last one I did talked about plugins, and the third one, this one, is about effects. And hopefully I covered some of the basics about any kind of effect. One more thing I want to cover, obviously I didn't get into a lot of these, and a lot of them are self-explanatory, and a lot of them you just have to play around with in order to understand. But one thing I didn't go into yet was how to add one in if you have one that's not FL native. For example, G-Snap, how did I get in there? What I did was add it to a folder, and then if you hit more and it's not showing up yet, you would hit refresh and do a fast scan, and then it would find anything that's not here already. So there's a new one that I added in and then I didn't put in here yet, and it's called Compressor Deesser, DLL. That's where it came in, and I just hit F. So now that I'm done with that, new plugin found. Now that I'm done with that, it'll show up here. Compressor Deesser. There it is. Not registered, I guess. So I think I got the demo or something. But that's that. Yeah, and that folder that I was talking about, because I kind of didn't really explain it, I already made a shortcut to it, and I went to, if you go to packs, not packs, FL Studio 10, sorry, and then you go to, well, sometimes I put them in plugins if I'm lazy, and I would just drop them in here. Actually, I think this is the right place to do them. I don't even know if I'm lazy, that was the right place. So yeah, sorry, FL Studio, go to computer, go to C drive, go to program files, times 86, find image line, FL Studio 10, plugins, VST, and then just drag and drop that DLL that you just got, whatever you downloaded for it, maybe Umbra Free. Some of these are plugins, actual plugins, and some of these are effects like Fruity Filter and stuff, and I just drag them and drop them here. There's G-Snap, for example. So, yep, that's how to add them in, and it's the same technique for adding in plugins as well, and I already went over that. Going to channels, add one, more, and then once you drag it into the right folder, just hitting that refresh button, fast scan, and then they'll come up. So yeah, couple new videos coming soon. Thanks again for watching, and be sure to check out Digital Video FX's tutorials, and I'm going to link to his channel maybe in the description below. Thanks again, and have a good day.